Hello and welcome to the Come Alive podcast. I'm your host, Mirchandani. I'm a mother with a story, a business leader with a vision, and a leadership coach with a mission to transform lives and businesses. I am dedicated to empowering 10x growth in fellow humans by unlocking the transformative power of self-connection. I'm happy to announce a unique collaboration with YPO MENA and Regional called Every Journey Has a Story to Tell. It's a 24-episode podcast series of inspiring YPO members. If you'd like to be on the show, please do reach out to me and I'd love to host you. Today's guest is Abhishek Shah, a visionary entrepreneur and YPO member who is redefining supply chain and logistics across emerging markets. As the co-founder and group CEO of RSA Global, Abhishek leads a team of 700 people across 24 sites in UAE and India. His passion for digital transformation, sustainability, and leadership is reflected not only in RSA's success but also in his co-founded ventures ByTasker and Faro AI. A Harvard OPM graduate and an active member of Endeavor Enterprises Circle, Abhishek is on a mission to shape the future of logistics with purpose and innovation. So thank you, Abhishek, for being on the show. I'm super excited to start our conversation. So from civil engineering to logistics, how did the journey start?
Yeah, Meher, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here. Thrilled to be on your show and have this conversation. Look, civil engineering goes back to growing up in Dubai. We moved here in 2001. Dubai was just starting its unbelievable journey of construction boom, the first boom. And I was still in school then. And when it came to 2003-ish, I had to choose what I wanted to do for university. I remember one piece of advice I got, which pretty much shaped that decision. It was choose something that you can be interested in for 3 years rather than what you think you need in life. And I think what that meant was, unless you want to be a doctor or lawyer, you can really choose any subject as long as you're interested so you can finish it. And growing up in Dubai, I just saw buildings going around all above us, roads and bridges and everything coming out of almost overnight, right? If you remember that time. So I was like, I want to learn how they do that. And then I did some research, and it was civil engineering is how you learn how you do that. So that's how civil engineering came to be. Nice. And there was no real blowback from my parents, apart from I had a little phase where I thought I'd want to be a zoologist. And my parents were like, you really want to go and hug animals all day. So then I think civil engineering became the more logical choice at that point in time. But my parents were very supportive. They're like, just do what you're interested in. And I think that's how that became. And then through that course in university, I ended up doing a master's of civil engineering with business management. And in the business management part of the course, we did a course on supply chain. And the thing that absolutely enamored me was how you could produce clothes in Vietnam and have it labeled in 3 different currencies, in euros, pounds, or in dollars, and have that end up on a shelf in Marks and Spencer in London. I was like, how can that work? The data flow, the cargo flow. And that's what I learned what supply chain was. And that's where the bug of what logistics was sort of took me over. And then I started deep diving into that. And then there's a whole other story with what my dad had done. And then they sort of met in the middle.
So that's amazing. So when you came back, then you co-founded RSA Global with your father. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a bit of a unique story there, right? Where it's not many people that have co-founded a business with their dad. My father takes a lot of the credit in how this all was created, but it really does go back to, like I said, we moved to Dubai in 2001. That was more of a family decision for a better quality of life, but we didn't have any business interests here. So him being an entrepreneur, back then they were called businessmen, I guess, but he just saw a gap in the market of industrial real estate. And he built a couple of warehouses, and you'll know this, in the first ones in Jafsa South when they were moving across Sheikh Zayed Road. And that was a real estate play. And the tenant then decided to offer a buyout and didn't want to pay rent anymore. So he happily exited. I was still in high school then. And then at that point in time, 2005, they launched Dubai South. Then it was called Dubai World Central. And the idea there was you could now do a logistics activity without having to have an LLC license. So my dad jumped on that. And again, he was going for the real estate play more than anything else and taking the logistics activity as a backup. And while I was in university from 2005 to 2009, we were constantly building their vision of what this was together. The name, he takes the credit. People ask me what it is. The first company was called RSA Logistics. So that was Road, Sea, Air Logistics, kind of saying what we did. So not very creative or a lot of thought in that.
It's simple and nice.
It's very simple, exactly. And then the idea is that was always to come back and sort of build that out. And I told you a little bit earlier about me getting enamored of how supply chain works with that example of clothes from Vietnam to a shop in the UK. So I was like, okay, we want to be a part of this. We want to get educated in that. And that's how it, came back naturally after I graduated in June 2009. It was a tough time because of the global financial crisis. But that's exactly how we started the business together. There's a lot more of struggle and challenges there, but that's how the business came to be.
So I often see your LinkedIn posts, and RSA Global is known to be future thinking, very culture centric. I love the posts you put with your team, your partners, and your stakeholders and everything. So what are the philosophies, the mindset you have that you use to maintain this culture and philosophies in your organization? Because I do believe culture eats strategy any day of the week, and it has to be your culture has to be solid to build anything big.
Totally a buy-in with that, and I love that statement as well. Look, I think a lot of this comes in founder-led businesses like this, right? I keep saying my father gets a lot of credit because even though we founded together, he was very clear from day one, he didn't really want to get involved, right? We were both learning the industry and the business together, but he obviously had life experience over me. So building that mentorship relationship there within this work environment was really powerful. But the space given for freedom of mistakes, freedom to learn, freedom to execute, freedom to build, sort of is what shapes this question of culture, because it comes down to your personal values and how you're brought up for the first part. And then second, I really believe that a few pillars of what make us strong is how do we build great people and give them great direction to do what they know is right? So freedom came very early on from that. I think then the later on learning in life was I gave lots of freedom with no controls. And it was actually a Harvard OPM that really taught me that.
So there has to be a balance.
There has to be a balance, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't keep controls in place, that box that you're giving them freedom in, you still have to be able to manage that box, right? So that was a harsh reality over time. But that's still something that haven't changed fully. I think another one is I start from a philosophy of I trust you 100% on day one. It's your job to keep it there. Rather than you have to earn my trust over time. I've gone through a process. I trust you. It's your job to keep it there, right? And I think that's a relationship I build with my team.
And I like that because the very fact that we bring them into our business and open up so much to them is defined as we trust you.
Exactly,
first.
right? Because
I love
the other way is it's the other way around. You have to build trust over time, which obviously happens with relationships there. But when you operate from that mindset and you actually put that expectation, and it's almost a social contract between the two of you as a leader and another business executive, that's sort of how it builds, right? And then beyond that, another thing that has really powered our business has been just the power of partnerships. I through my education, and I was lucky enough to understand, that if you are willing to partner with people and you structure them well, align incentives, align long-term goals, you can go a lot further together. And I think that by a little bit of luck, but also a little bit of design, we've been built on partnerships, and that's what's built the culture of the organization. And of course, we've had our rough times and tough times through all of that, individually and with partnerships, but that's what really binds the team together. And you know what? And the last factor is that it helped that I was a fairly young person in this industry, right? If I look back at it now, this is the only thing I've done, but generally logistics was slow to change. It was run by more mature people. If you had somebody in the mid-20s now trying to shake things up, you kind of did attract a bit of exciting talent that wanted to come to the industry. And this was before logistics was, let's say, sexy with e-commerce and everything. Yeah.
So what is the biggest lesson you've learned during your journey?
Biggest lesson is a tough one to single out. I think there are a series of lessons which I would tell a younger version of myself. So one is, you know, if you're very small, never discount the value of organizational structure, where you need to make roles and responsibilities fairly clear. What is the definition of good for you to be successful as an individual, and how I can help you grow to your next level, right? I think having that in play breeds such a great environment overall. I think that was the HR practices that I wish I'd learned early on. The other biggest one is understand that where you think you are going to be today, build and design for every possible outcome. Your job as a CEO, as a role of a CEO, is to build optionality into the business where you don't know what tomorrow can come. That comes with how you build relationships, how you sign contracts and agreements with your customers or partners, and make sure you build flexibility, right? And the third one is that, just continuously invest in your people. Yeah, and we were guilty of it ourselves when we went through some lean patches or during the COVID times. It's the first thing that gets pulled: marketing and probably training, right?
Yeah.
You should not really do that. I think those are some of the big learnings that I've had.
Yeah, I've also spent a lot of time working on training people. There was a time in the company where each of them had a coach. When I did my coaching, I'm a certified professional coach, and when I learned the power of coaching, I was like, every person in my company has to have a coach. So I did that. I made sure they understood themselves, who they are, what they want in life, because most often they also don't know what they want.
Sure,
and then it's difficult to communicate to the company that what they want. So the coaching really helped me in that. But I did my best to fight in the company to make sure that every employee has a coach or a team member has a coach.
That's incredible.
And also a lot of training, because when I joined EO about 14 years ago,
which is where we met.
Yes. So that's when also we learned so much about how to build a good culture. And YPO talks about the same thing, to be a successful business, the culture is important. And I think it came naturally to me also. I love loving people. I mean, that's my whole book about. Loving yourself makes you love other people. It's about empathy, compassion. And that's my second book about as well. So I did that. And I'm happy to hear that, these are the things that work.
Sure.
So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. And look, I think on that one, right? I said, so the training, but the encouragement of every individual to say you must find some mentors in your life, right? I could be a mentor, but you must build that ecosystem around you, because you constantly need this input of bouncing ideas off. And I think I definitely benefited from that, but by luck, not by design. So now how do you make it by design into every person's life overall? So I think that what you said, I fully endorse.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you've co-founded multiple ventures, especially in innovation and tech. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think first you have to find out what is your what makes you tick. Are you a 0 to 1 guy? Are you a 1 to 100 guy? And I've been asking myself that question a lot of times through my career when I first heard that question. I think I first started out as a 0 to 1 guy, and I've had to learn to become a 1 to 100 guy, because that's where now the organization needs me. But that value that you create at 0 to 1, I don't think I wanted to fully let go of. This need of helping and trying to co-found these other companies came from also the need of the mothership. So today, both these co-founding happened around 2019. I went to a Peter Diamandis Singularity University conference in LA in 2019, and where they lay out the next 10 trends that are going to radically change the world. And I come back from that one, oh my God, my business is dead. It's going to completely disrupt my business. And you're like so enamored. You're like, the world is going to change. And obviously it's not that case. But at that time, you're panicking a little bit of what do you do? So then I was like, if I went back to my business and I wanted to now do these technological experiments, innovational experiments, will it be possible? And the short answer was no. The running machine of the business, the demands of the customers and the current team members would never allow us to do breakthrough technology innovation. So then the idea was, okay, let's find some early stage companies, let's back them, let them incubate or test case within RSA, so it gives them an idea of a first customer, and then they can commercialize out there. So that's how that came out. It came from a fear of I will become irrelevant or obsolete very quickly, but then also turned into a great journey of understanding how you build tech companies, which are very different from what I would call my business a traditional B2B company at that moment in time. We've changed a lot now, but that's what I learned from these sort of angles of how you build tech organizations and transform.
So how do these ventures fuel logistics, or does it directly help logistics in
Yeah.
your space, or how
Yeah,
does
so,
it
so
work?
the, I would call myself a fairly vertical specific domain expert in supply chain. So I only invested in companies in supply chain. So these are
Okay.
both logistics tech organizations. One of them is what today we would call agentic AI, but for pure logistics operations. It started out as an intelligent virtual assistant for logistics operations and is morphed now with all these LLMs into an agentic AI platform. And the other one is a very smart API-friendly freight management solution that allows you to basically break on or take on something like CargoWise, which is a lot more heavier, clunky, and expensive to implement. So it was more for the long tail of the industry from that point of view. So we are, as RSA, we are a customer of them, and as Abhishek, I'm one of the founders in the business. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And you did mention OPM, the Harvard program, a couple
Yeah.
of times. How was that journey for you?
Pretty good. I mean, and I think it again, it's this exposure of continuous interest in self-learning. Maybe I'll say this, where I was a pretty poor student in general in school. I was lucky to get into a very good university. I was lucky to also do decently well at university. But the true hunger of life to learn came when I started working, and I had no answers, right?
Yes,
And you just
that
didn't know what to do.
happens. Yes.
So then, 2015, when I joined EO, and the same year I also joined Endeavor. Endeavor was all about my business growth. EO was a lot about my personal
Personal
growth,
growth.
and that was a great balance in my life. But Endeavor also exposed me to some of these week-long educational setups in Harvard, Stanford, INSEAD, etc. So in 2016, 17, 18, I did a week at each one. And the objective at that point in time was find which educational institute suited me best from a style, from a environment, culture, etc. So then Harvard was the one I enjoyed the most. So in 2019, I started my Harvard OPM Unit 1, and then COVID kind of disrupted us, and I only managed to finish it in 23 and 24. But the learning from that was three things for me, right? So one was, when was the last time in your adult life you went and spent 3 weeks voluntarily with everybody who wants to go there and share and learn? You're spending every awake hour together. So the deep level of the willingness to share and learn from each other and the bonds you create are next to none, right? You have to go back to university when you were in that kind of mindset. So phenomenal for that. 50% of the value, I would say, come from there. 25% of the value, because of the time zone in Boston, by 9 a.m. there, your world is completely asleep here. No distractions, clarity of thinking, self-reflection was fantastic. And then the other last 25% was one or two theoretical concepts from education that you would try and implement in your business. And I think that's what I really took away from that. And that's so fresh for me still that I really, really have thoroughly enjoyed that. And I've tried to impart as much as I can within my organization.
That's amazing. And it's one of my things to do as well. So when
Cannot recommend it enough.
yeah, and I feel I'll do it when my twins turn a certain age. They're
Yeah.
still 13 and I want to be more with them. I don't think I can remove 3
Absolutely.
weeks out of the schedule. But that's so true that you said that, when we join the family business or we join a business or we start a business, it's very difficult from school. Like there's
Yep.
there's a big disparity between what they teach you and how to actually do business. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I was so hungry to make sure that I don't mess up anything in my family business then that's when I joined EO.
Yeah.
And luckily we got a very good set of teachers and speakers and everything that I was immediately implementing in the business.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that really helped me. So that's good to know. And I know you are very thirsty for learning and you still do that. So how do you stay motivated?
See, I think motivation, there is an element of individual drive, right, that I think you kind of need to have. And I really have thought about this a lot because it's come up a few years. So in our generation, there are a few types of people in our millennial generation that are either really self-driven. Many of them are, let's say, second or third gen in building into businesses. I call myself a second gen entrepreneur. And then there's people who are just content, and I think there's nothing wrong with either, right? So I think it just depends on what journey you're on. I have a burning desire to create value for the people that are around me. I think that's really what drives me. So I want to make my employees really wealthy and really successful. I want them to. I want to make sure that my parents are proud of me. I want to make sure that I build a great life for my wife and kids. And that's not necessarily all monetarily. It is about experiences. It's about exposure. It's about setting you up with the most broadest set of thinking ideals that can give you the next set of your next set of your career or life. But what drives me on a day-to-day basis is coming in and winning, right? I love winning, right?
And what does winning look like for you?
Winning is you have an idea, it comes to life, you go to a customer, you implement something, and I realized that I'm a growth guy, right? From a long time ago. I don't enjoy and I've been through a couple of cycles now where it's been hard, and you have to do that. You don't have a choice. As a CEO, you don't have a choice. But then you realize that that's not where I'm best suited at, and then you build teams around what your weaknesses are so that your strengths get amplified and not your weaknesses get highlighted. So for me, you put me in front of sales, customers, partnerships, growth. That's where I'm best suited and best value adding. And it took me a long time to realize I need to build that competency behind, right? To complement me as the sort of main operator of the business. And that's what really drives me, right? It gets me very excited overall. And sometimes the world doesn't let you. And then you got to figure out, and that's the emotional growth and the mental grit to stick through it, find different solutions, and survive.
And you did mention about that there has been a couple of challenges in your journey. Can you share a challenge and what you learned out of it, and how did it make you more stronger?
Yeah, so I'll share maybe 3 challenges, right? 3 different challenges through different parts of my career. So challenge number 1 was, as soon as we started doing a little bit well in 2011 and 12, when the market sort of picked back up, I was hell-bent on the idea that logistics is a point-to-point game. Having one warehouse in Dubai or the UAE isn't going to make or break anything in the supply chain. We need to have a trade lane we build and develop. We were a family originally from Kenya in Nairobi. So I basically went to Nairobi and I said, okay, now let's try and, what's the export from here? What's the import requirement in the UAE? Let's now do a point-to-point. Wasn't successful. It's obviously a successful trade lane for business, but we weren't successful because our core competence was running the 4 walls. I tried to do something we had no core competency with, which was actual freight forwarding, export, perishables. We had none of that. So that was a huge failure and a great learning that, hey, you got to build core competencies before you move on to the next thing, right? So that was failure number 1. Failure number 2 was when we started to go into our cold chain business in 2016. We were trying to be more strategic. I said, let's try and do a market survey, understand that are we going to make a huge supply come onto the market and change the pricing or the dynamics? And so for argument's sake, let's say there was 1 million pallet positions in the market for frozen goods. We bought 10,000. I was like, okay, our percentage is not going to make a difference. But then what we didn't know is that when the oil crisis happened in 2016, there's a sharp oil dip. Every fruit trader and distributor who had warehouse capacity became a 3PL company because they lost a lot of trading volume. So that 1 million pallet positions of capacity became 3.5 million pallet positions. So now there was too much supply, right? So our business case completely crashed from that point of view. So the learning there was, how do you really assess the market? What are the market norms that you got to look at? You got to look at captive and 3PL operations overall. So I think that was a great learning. And that business struggled for a number of years. And actually COVID is what really brought that up because of the food security programs. And then the third one, which was my first M&A that we did. So we, at that same time, I was looking to grow international, that oil diversification. We wanted to have a market that was less oil dependent. So we did an M&A in India. It was right strategy, right customer base and right company, just very poor execution. Right. And what I mean by execution is that we basically didn't look at, in India, I was always told that, you got to be very careful.
Yeah.
In the sense that.
That's our learning always.
But you have to be very careful that, if you go and buy a company in 3 months, all those customers will be in his brother's company and it'll be over. So we paid so much attention to revenue. We didn't pay that much attention to cost. So the due diligence and the structure we did there was pure lack of inexperience, right? A massive mistake. So you do an M&A to buy time into a market and to gain access foothold quicker than you would. We unfortunately didn't get either. So I have a lifelong MBA of how not to do an M&A, which I share very openly because I think it's a great learning and I would love nobody to go through that again, right? Of what we went through.
But you did turn around and we're still
there in India today. We're still there in India today.
So how did you turn it around?
I had 3 rounds at it. I think I'm on my 3rd round now.
And why were you so persistent about India?
I am very long in very long in the belief of what India will be for the world. Today we
I like
have
that.
a lot of interest in the market of the Indian seller base and production base of India will become the next seller base that wants to go global. I have to follow that seller base and allow them and help them to go global. That is my 20-year play of how I think we will be even more successful by following the back of that. And we're doing that a lot very successfully in our e-commerce business today. Demystifying for e-commerce sellers out of India how you can take your products to the global markets. So yeah, it's a marathon for sure.
So you do everything in India as well, like the 3PL.
Yeah, so we do three domestic warehousing, domestic trucking, multimodal logistics, and e-commerce cross-border out of India. That is what we do there
amazing.
today.
That's
Yeah.
and now it's successful.
Well, now it's trending in the right direction to become a much more successful company than it was 2 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That,
Yeah, thank you.
that is a tough one. We tried to venture out into India a couple of times for different aspects of business, and it was not a very pleasant. And I think we preferred to just be in Dubai, and that's
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
just happy to be in this
And look,
part of the world.
I cannot fault you for that thought process, but today it is just about how you structure things for execution. Execution is nearly 80% of business success in my view, and you got to have a very, very strong piece of that. So those have been some of the tough learnings. Remember I told you about controls earlier?
Yes.
I did an acquisition with no controls from HQ, and that's what led me to completely dig a bigger and bigger hole for myself that I had to get out of. So yeah, these are painful learnings, which I always love sharing.
But your energy is always high, I must tell you. So nobody will ever know what you're going through. So how do you stay connected to yourself, to your team, and grounded? How do you communicate the vision with your team? You do manage 700 people.
Yeah.
And
So I think that comes just down to I would say three things, right? So number one is make sure we make it truly simple for people to understand where we're going. So the old adage of a one-page strategic plan, but dumb that down into a way that it is down to 2 or 3 metrics. It is down to a statement that is the vision of the goal of where we're going to, and make sure that it's supported by the pillars of the organization, which is our core purpose, our core values, our brand promise, and what is our real goal that we're trying to get to. So we make that map every 3 years, so everybody's aligned of hopefully where we're trying to go. It's really simple, it's very clean, it's very easy. So that's sort of strategic intent of where we want to go. Then second is making sure that we have a very strong second line below me. So the way we are structured, we have a number of business leaders in there, plus corporate team members who are supporting those businesses, and make sure that they are intimately aligned with that vision. So my job there is essentially just chief communicator, and making sure I'm endorsing that vision. Because once I have them, they become the endorsers of that, and then they percolate it through the organizations, right? So I've invested a lot of time in my one-to-ones with those team members so that we are all aligned, and I'm
I think that is super important.
eradicating
The
eradicating all the barriers that they basically see to make them be the best version of themselves that they can. And the third is, which we're still sort of finding our feet, is how do you be the best corporate communication organization that also closes the loop with your employees? Right?
And what does that mean?
So today they have a question, or you have a town hall and they want to understand something, they come up with a great suggestion. How do you make sure feedback is always going? Either we're doing it, we're not doing it, we listen to it, it's going to happen in the time, it's not possible. That then builds trust. And that trust then means that whatever we say is going to be responded to, but then whatever we're saying from the top on strategy is going to be heard. Right? So as long as they're constantly being heard through the smaller things, they'll hear the big things, right? And follow the principle, every human must hear something 7 times before they truly understand it. So
to keep repeating what you truly want the company to be, who you are, what is the vision, what is the goal.
Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah, I do that. So when I started my journey, I would do, when I joined EO, I would do a Monday mindfulness meeting because I just knew I had to change the culture. So every Monday, I would meet for 30 minutes, the entire team, and explain to them that what this company is going to be, what we are, who it is. It's nothing to do with business. It's more about the culture, the energy, the person behind it. It was more about sharing an article, sharing a book, about, like they say that, the relationship you have with yourself determines the quality of every other relationship in life. So to understand yourself, to build a great relationship with yourself, because that's what gives happiness at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So my effort was to make sure. So I did that for 10 years of my life.
Wow.
And this year we've embarked on bigger and better trainings, but I made sure, and every time they would say it's too much, like my brother or my father, it's too much every Monday. So I used to say the same thing, but how much of our time we invest in so many other things.
Yeah.
30 minutes a week, we need to learn, recreate messages, understand why we are here, understand who we are. And I continued. I didn't listen to anybody and I just continued doing that. And I do believe I've built a great team, and most of the people are with me. And that's what matters. Retention, I think, really, really matters to grow a good business.
And look, rituals like that become, part of the culture which eats that strategy, right? So rituals are very important. Yeah. Love that.
Thank you. So you're a father of 3. How do you keep that same energy at home when you go?
Look,
And what is the And what is the work-life balance you maintain, or what is your definition of that?
Yeah. So first, being a girl dad, I think, has been one of the best things ever. It's a very funny story. I think I haven't really told many people this, but when we were pregnant with our first child, it sounds like a crazy story, but I woke up in the middle of the night, covered in complete sweats, right? I looked over to my wife, Karishma, and I said, I've had a weird dream, but it doesn't matter how many kids we're going to have, it's only going to be girls, right?
Wow.
And she's like, whatever, go back to bed, right? Obviously, she was pregnant and not really in the mood for storytelling at that moment in time. But I just had this feeling, I have 2 sisters, a mom I grew up with most of the time. Dad was traveling a lot. So I've just been around that environment a lot, right? So really love that. And I think what I have enjoyed most about that, and you talk about work-life balance, I just feel it's so powerful, because my dad did that a lot, is just constantly talk and educate to them about what I do.
I do that, yes.
Not at all about saying, this is what I want you to do. I just want to make you learn what I do, right? So the amount of times I've just taken them to the office every holiday, including my nieces and nephews, whoever's interested, and just say, this is what we do. This is how your food comes from here. This is how your toys get home. And I think from them now having the reciprocal questions that come from that point of view, it actually just makes it a lot more exciting, right? And when it comes to balance overall, I think I have realized that my best moments with my kids come when I'm creating unique experiences with them, right? So the last couple of years, I've been trying to really push for daddy and girl trips alone, which has taken a lot of selling.
So you have all 3 girls?
Yeah, just me and the 3 girls, we go alone. But it's taken a lot of selling to get them to realize that mama's not going to come with us from that point of view. And I think me creating my own memories with them is one of the best ways to balance that out, right? Because we have our own memories. And now as I get older, I'm hoping to do it individually with each person, right? Because they're very different as a group of 3, as individual girls as well. To give them all the questions that they have in life and making them as strong as possible, and give them, like I said, the breadth and exposure to the world so they can choose what their path is.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true. I think experience is what we need to, and exposure is what we need to give our kids. So I have 2 girls, as I mentioned. And I believe the same experiences and exposure is what we really need to give them in today's time. And to be able to understand, choose, be the best version of themselves, that counts much more than anything else.
For sure. Yeah.
And I love when you said that, you open them up to what you do. There's a sense of connection there, I feel. So I do the same. Like, I open them up to what I do. Like, I tell them about all the lines I work on, my verticals that I work on, how passionate I am, what are the struggles, what are the wins, everything I discuss with them. So they're so involved in my life. So there is a connection there.
Because, at that age, they're so curious.
Yeah.
And sometimes the questions they ask you actually put you in a great position because you don't know the answer. Right? And you have to really think about it. And I think those conversations are great. I take them to construction sites. I take them to finished operations. So they've been exposed to it since the age of 1. Just go and understand what we do. Every year we go. Every holiday we go. And I think that just builds some idea of appreciation for them.
How has YPO shaped your entrepreneurial journey or your life?
So I think in general, the whole ecosystem of EO and YPO has been truly impactful to me. And in terms of, I told you the time I started, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. EO was personal growth and Endeavor was business growth. But the decision to also move to EO from YPO was basically predicated on only 2 things. One was I was building a more international and global business at that point in time with the India acquisition and a few more things. So I thought that YPO may be a better platform for global business development. Secondly, as my business was getting bigger, I was hiring a lot more executives. And today, I just didn't know how they thought. I'd never myself been a professional CEO at a large organization. So what is it to like actually hire a professional CEO? It makes them tick? What's important to them? So being a part of YPO and being in forum. So today my forum has 4 people that are business owners, 4 people that are professionals, and getting their perspective on life has been so enlightening, right? From that point of view. So I think that and the power of our forum has been phenomenal. I mean, we have such a great bond where we are for each other, and they're my first go-to for any kind of news that I want to share about my life, good or bad, right? And I think that's when you know that you're truly successful of creating that 5% within the forum. So YPN has been a great platform for that, and really enjoyed it. And now the family integration that's happening, we go for family retreats and getting my kids involved, and my wife is so involved from that point of view. It's become a part of our life, and I don't think we would have been able to consider life without it now.
That's so true. I was also thinking of how YPO has made me who I am today, and you, of course. But it really helps you shift your mindset, look at the abundant mentality rather than live in lack. Like sometimes you might be surrounded with people who have more fears or insecurities due to their experiences. But I do believe that YPO in general has more of this abundant mentality and more of a victor mentality rather than a victim mentality,
Sure.
which really, really helps you thrive and look beyond, which maybe even others can't look beyond.
So I'll tell you one very small anecdote, and this is
Yes,
from another
absolutely.
YPO. Randomly having a conversation, I said, "Look, I'm starting this new business line, and this is my goal of what I want to do by this year." And he looked at me in not in an arrogant way at all. He just said, "That's a really unambitious plan, right?"
Okay.
And I think the reality check of that, exactly what you said, you were thinking very small, and just that one statement from somebody at a random dinner party when I was explaining the thing changed my mindset. I was like, I got to probably think bigger. And today, that pushing that ceiling a bit further has changed the way my team is thinking, and that only happens in that environment because I was willing to share and safe to share. I got an honest feedback, and it indirectly changed the trajectory of that business in overall, which I loved. Right?
Yeah,
Which
I
loved.
love it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing, amazing. So tell me, what do you do to keep an awesome relationship with yourself? Because to be able to serve all these areas, to be able to think that you want to grow your team, to live purposefully, you need to have rituals or some kind of a connection with yourself, which I can, of course, as a coach, instinctively feel that you do. So I would love for you to share with the audience, and what do you do to keep yourself?
This is a very interesting question. So if I was to go back, and I think one of those key, so I've always been a people's person, right? I felt most comfortable in groups. I felt like that's where I was happiest, etc. And then when I went into this internship in Singapore, I remember this was a very unique time for me where I was totally alone, new city. I didn't know anybody. I had one friend, and it was Diwali, and I had nobody to invite me to their house or even to go and like have some Indian food. I went to watch Wake Up Sid in the cinema on my own, and that will never stay because I've never thought I could do something like that, be alone with myself. And I think from then on, understood that the power of how you can build a relationship with yourself can really change and transform your mind. And if I fast forward to today, rituals and things that are there, one, I do have few but very deep relationships with people that I'd like to keep, right? And that really keeps me grounded and have great conversations overall. Second is I like to be very physically active with sports or going to the gym and making sure, because that's when I'm really the happiest. When I look and feel good, I also feel very happy mentally. And the third one, which I've realized over time, is when the business is growing, I'm the happiest, right? And I'm trying to de-link that overall, because when you're kind of, it's impossible as an entrepreneur to not bring business home with you because it's just traveling with you all the time. But having to decouple that is one of my greatest challenges. That tough times are always going to come, and they're going to come again for sure. But then how do you not let that affect or impact the rest of your life? But the combination of those three things: deep relationships, physical, upkeep of yourself, and trying to do things that you love or in a growth mindset, really was what keeps me in the best relationship with myself.
Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. At least you found what
Yeah.
you like doing and what you love doing and what makes you thrive, because that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
So what is the legacy you would like to leave?
What is a legacy I would like to leave? I said it earlier. What is the one goal that I have not fulfilled yet is how do I make the people that have worked with me and trusted me meet their goals? And for many of them, it is, let's say, financial abundance or financial freedom. And I think that is something I would love if in, I don't know, 40 years or 50 years, hey, I worked with Abhishek and he really made us all very wealthy and helped me meet this goal. I would love that to be a legacy of mine, right?
For
And I
them to
enjoy
have a
doing
better
that.
lifestyle
Like a
and
better
for their
lifestyle or
children. And
do whatever their goals might be, right? I would love that to be a legacy, and it's something I'm really working towards because I think that really drives me.
that's amazing. Congratulations on that too, and all the best for that
Thank
mission. And if you had to distill your journey in one leadership principle, what would you say?
A leadership principle. Look, I think from a leadership standpoint, right? I think the most important one for me, where I've learned over time, is that one about I trust you from day one. It's your job to keep it there, right? And because when you create that as a conversation on day one with somebody new, there's almost a contract there. Now it's my job to keep it there, right? For us to have that relationship of mutual trust, and as soon as that starts breaking, it's my job to sort of identify it and bring it up, right? And I think that's been something I've really followed it. It was something that I learned. I don't even know where I learned it from. It wasn't from my parents, I don't think, but I just learned that, and I really believe in that statement, right? And that's a leadership principle that because you need trust to be able to build things together, take risks, make mistakes.
And I think the world, works on trust, right?
Yeah,
The
so
universe
much.
thrives on trust, and
much.
without trust, there's nothing actually.
Agreed.
So you've been on a transformational journey, building tech into your brick and mortar business. How has that journey been?
Yeah, so this has been something that I've been living day in day out at the moment. So 2.5 years ago, we started out on a journey saying that we wanted to now have a suite of businesses that were very asset heavy, our legacy business that are continuing to grow. But I had an ambition to create a business that was truly global, that was not bound by the four walls or bound by physical location of what we could do. And given that we are logistics specialists and supply chain specialists, we chose the supply chain world of e-commerce cross-border logistics. So we embarked on a journey 3 years ago to create a suite of tech solutions and technology layer that allows you to take a parcel from anywhere in the world, delivered to Meher in London or in Lagos or in Dubai, without ever touching the parcel, without ever seeing anything cross there. And this was just sort of step one. And the learnings of trying to incubate what you would call a startup inside a corporate, and we are a mid-sized corporate, not a global corporate, has been a fascinatingly difficult journey, because you have the needs and demands of resources to run the brick and mortar business and the traditional business versus trying to incubate for the future. You've got resources, you've got challenges, whether that is obviously taking capital versus that's giving capital, how do you manage your leadership teams within that. But it's been a very enjoyable journey to understand how tech actually works. And the learnings from what we've created there and now filtering those back into our legacy business or brick and mortar business has been pretty exciting. And what is now that done overall, as we now start building our next 3 years of what we want to do, is the foundational strength of competencies that have been developed is allowing us to now really think a lot more globally. Did not come without its pains and mistakes, but we've been pretty excited about doing this journey.
So that's really courageous, because if it's so easy to be comfortable where you are, and especially if the brick and mortar is doing well, you're doing India, you're doing all the other tech and AI things that you're doing to do this transformation. It's really, really amazing to be able to again drive this forward. It's painstaking, right?
It's painstaking, but also comes from a position of a necessity. And I'll tell you why. What was the inspiration behind this? If you go back to COVID, we already saw consolidation happening in the 3PL supply chain world. COVID only accelerated that. And the trigger for me was when we were a regional hero, right, as a business, and we were getting invited to tenders every so often from the big organizations. Then suddenly, unless it was a very specific business, like let's say petrochemicals, which is high risk and very localized decision making, or food, which is again very much all of like the FMCG businesses. Now deals were being done outside Dubai. So a global giant like DSV or DHL would go to the headquarters of that company and say, hey, I want a 4 or 5 country deal now, right? We were not in the picture even to bid. So the challenge was that, okay, if we're now going to be cut out of the opportunity as well, how do I now repurpose my assets to build something that's going to be hyper localized? So
Love it.
then that came from
Understood.
a piece of necessity that, okay, hyper-localized means fulfillment, e-commerce, because that's just at the last mile before the consumer in this region. And then from that morphed into this idea of we can now build this into a global business. So it was a need of necessity of survival that drove this idea, not necessarily being courageous that we're just bored, let's do something.
Amazing. That's good to know. I think that's
Yeah.
nice, because then you get to know when is the time to do this in your business.
Exactly. Sometimes you're pushed to the corner.
Yeah. Amazing. And all my best wishes with you
Thank you.
for you to soar even further.
Thank you, Meher. Really appreciate the time and really
Thank you again
thoroughly enjoyed
for
this
being
conversation.
on this conversation
Thank you.
and podcast. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Come Alive podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on whichever platform you're hearing it. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And until next time, see you soon.